Hello and welcome back to another episode here of the Damage Report. After day 2 of the DNC and entering into a very weird day of news indeed. This might have to be Weird News Wednesday as opposed to Big News Wednesdays, but that's the only change. The constant is Jayar Jackson. How's it going, Jayar?
Hey, news is news, bro. Big news, weird big news. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah, we're gonna do a little bit from the DNC last night. We've got updates on the post office, maybe moving in the right direction. Who knows? We're going to drill, baby, drill. We've got an interesting... So I've got a poll, but I know what you're probably thinking. Oh, a poll. We've had polls before. This is different. This is a different type of poll.
Sure.
Maybe it'd be a little bit interesting. We'll see. We've got Trump on his brother, who recently passed away. We're going to take a look at what sort of person Trump is as he experiences this grief that obviously we feel bad for him for. And then at the end of the show, you're not going to want to miss it, because you remember last week when Ben Shapiro made an absolute fool out of himself over that Cardi B song? Tucker Carlson looked down on that and thought, not alone you won't. And so he's weighed in on it now too. So we'll have that for you. And a few little news tidbits sprinkled in, little things that we don't have a ton of time to comment on, like the fact that Laura Loomer won a congressional primary. What is going on in America? She's a legitimate crazy person.
Well, I mean, she's openly a legitimate crazy person. There's plenty of crazy people that are in Congress. They just hide it well. There's a crazy person in the White House. He doesn't hide it well. That's where we've opened up things like this.
I mean, she's a grifter. She is just like the Democratic Party obviously is very frustrated with like online lefties trying to pressure them and stuff like that. But, like, do they get that we're trying to pressure them to change their policy positions? The right is being successfully pressured to all just become trolls on the internet. Like, there's less and less of a gap between the insane QAnon-supporting trolls on the internet and their literal elected officials. Like, it's Congress, it's a congressional primary today. In November, at least one is going to make it into Congress. Could it be a senator in 2 years or 4 years? Like, how long will any Republicans last if they don't accept Q or whatever comes after Q? Or I don't know. I don't know what the next conspiracy theory is, but it's going to be crazier because, like with so much, we haven't talked about this in a while, but one of the things most frustrates me about everything online is that everything online is drugs. Everything hits ya. And it's exciting, and then you start to get used to it, and you need a more pure, refined, powerful version of it. And that leads to grifters in media and grifters in politics, and also in conspiracy theories. Alex Jones isn't just kind of irrelevant now because of all of the obvious issues that we've talked about, but because he's been doing his shtick for so long, like people get used to it, and they need something more powerful. And
conservatism is a hell of a drug, is what you're saying?
Yeah, everything. No, literally everything. Like we get criticized sometimes by people like, why aren't you saying this? I'm like, because I'm not doing everything I can just to maintain you as an audience member of me. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you just so that you. Yeah, I understand. There's people say crazy things so that you'll give them Patreon dollars. That's not what everybody does. Okay. Anyway, by the way, I see in the comments somebody was talking about. Stephen Colbert rolled out his new election intro animation, which has all of the Democrats in the Avengers Endgame thing, and it's like similar to what we've been doing about who each person that comes on is. It was quite well done. Obviously, we've seen a lot of those, but it was quite well done. Anyway, with that, why don't we launch into the big news from last night? How about that, Jayar?
Yeah.
Okay. Last night at the DNC, we finally got AOC for a little bit. Here's what she said.
Good evening, bienvenidos, and thank you to everyone here today endeavoring towards a better, more just future for our country and our world. In fidelity and gratitude to a mass people's movement working to establish 21st century social, economic, and human rights, including guaranteed health care, higher education, living wages, and labor rights for all people in the United States. A movement striving to recognize and repair the wounds of racial injustice, colonization, misogyny, and homophobia. and to propose and build reimagined systems of immigration and foreign policy that turn away from the violence and xenophobia of our past. A movement that realizes the unsustainable brutality of an economy that rewards explosive inequalities of wealth for the few at the expense of long-term stability for the many, and who organized a historic grassroots campaign to reclaim our democracy. In a time when millions of people in the United States are looking for deep, systemic solutions to our crises of mass evictions, unemployment, and lack of health care, en el espíritu del pueblo and out of a love for all people, I hereby second the nomination of Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont for President of the United States of America.
And if I can give you a live shot of many people seeing that, it was, what? She's endorsing Bernie? But that's what it was supposed to be. It's not, oh my God, she's going rogue at the last second, take her out. No. Yeah, this is what she was supposed to do. It's a formal thing. It happens at literally every Democratic convention and Republican convention.
Which, by the way, if you're watching that and you're like, I'm going to get the 60 seconds of AOC that is going to happen tonight at the convention, you're sitting at home in Washington and you're like, oh, let me just watch it. And you're just some watcher of maybe the first time paying attention to a DNC because of the importance of this year. And you hear that and you go, oh, man, she's endorsing Bernie Sanders. Oh, my God, on the floor. I remember hearing about things like this happening before when like Ted Cruz didn't formally say he loves Trump at the last cycle. All that stuff. I get that surprise. I understand having that surprise, honestly.
So I get that surprise. And I'm assuming Bernie must have suggested he wanted her to speak. And I wonder, first of all, on the good side, she got more than 60 seconds. That was like 1:30 or something like that. On the bad side, would she have spoken if Bernie hadn't chosen her to do his seconding? I don't know. And on the third side, did they allow it because they thought that they could spin it into a way that would hurt her? This is all speculation, probably. Ooh, it's Q stuff.
No, this is R stuff, John. This is R.
This is R. Yeah, Q. Lame. Really? Seriously? You still get off on Q? No, R. Are we going to believe that they didn't present that in kind of a way meant? What?
Be careful. You're formulating this group a little too well. You're gonna get a following.
Are you gonna sit there while they lie to your face? Anyway, no, but R is supposed to be anonymous, so I'm just gonna do it like this. Are you gonna accept what they say? And that would fool so many people online. Anyway, so to this, many people watching this will come away thinking that she's not supporting Biden, which of course is what she's doing, and this is a tradition, formality type thing. And the issue is that while we can speculate about the DNC and whether this was sort of their plan or whatever, and that's just speculation. NBC News, on the other hand, has a little bit more to answer for. So we're going to turn to that in 1 second. But first, because some people were confused initially, this is like right off the bat after she spoke, AOC tweeted in response to one of those tweets saying, if you were confused, no worries. Convention rules require roll call and nominations for every candidate that passes the delegate threshold, which he did. I was asked to second the nomination for Senator Sanders for roll call. I extend my deepest congratulations to Joe Biden. Let's go win in November, leaving no ambiguity as to who she's supporting in this election. And that was then turned into, by NBC News, in one of the shortest speeches of the DNC, Representative Ocasio-Cortez did not endorse Joe Biden. Quote, I hereby second the nomination of Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont for President of the United States of America. Which, let's just pause for a second. How deeply, fundamentally dishonest of a take is that for what just happened? Not some rando. NBC News, which has covered several conventions in the past, knows that this happens at every convention, knew what the content of her speech was before she gave it. They come out of that speech saying, oh, she didn't even endorse him. Wait, and she wants Bernie to be president. How fundamentally dishonest is that?
And I'm sorry, but also the minds, at least the way it was pitched was that she had this short speech as if she came in and just wanted to speak and say really quickly how much she supports Bernie Sanders and have everybody else at this place. I don't know. If you come into it already a little bit against her, your assumptions about her can be or it's a launching point from that tweet and that misleading headline from NBC News, right? Also, by the way, there's many things as far as an establishment Democrat, and you don't want anything to have to do with AOC, there's plenty of things that you can criticize from that minute and 25 seconds that she had there. You can criticize the fact that she said no more colonization. You can criticize that she spoke in Spanish for a phrase or two a couple of times. You can criticize the fact that she wants things to happen for the country that's actually liberal and progressive and aren't on the normal platform and agenda for people like Joe Biden. There's plenty of things for NBC News that say that they were outraged and clutched their pearls over from her minute and 25 seconds, but they chose to go here because that would encompass enough Democrats to be against her. If you actually talk about the things that she did that you disagree with as an organization that are actually progressive, people might start going, well, that sounds good. Yeah. Oh, well, that might work out for me. I mean, AOC might not be crazy. I haven't really listened to much anything else except for what people are saying that she said rather than what she said.
Yeah, and NBC is we can speculate about the DNC, and I obviously am frustrated with them giving her so little time and all that. But with NBC, no, that's designed to make people believe that, oh, look, she's one of those crazies. She's turning against Joe Biden or whatever, when she's 100% not doing that. And the content of her speech, the right presents her as some crazy radical. That was the most reasonable, level-headed, empathic, understanding 85 seconds I've ever heard in politics. How can you listen to that and think, oh yeah, no, she's the left's Laura Loomer? How could you think that? She's talking about healthcare and wages. That's it. So reasonable. Everybody should be talking about that. Everybody should be aspiring to be able to give a concise 90 seconds like that. But anyway, NBC News sent out that tweet, and they eventually did take down the tweet. Hours later, I think it was 1:30 a.m. Eastern time, when many of the sort of people who watch a convention would probably be asleep anyway. And so she responded to that saying, "You waited several hours to correct your obvious and blatantly misleading tweet. It sparked an enormous amount of hatred and vitriol, and now the misinfo you created is circulating on other networks because it is all over the place. All to generate hate clicks from a pre-recorded routine procedural motion." That's what they did. And she goes on to say, "This is completely unacceptable, disappointing, and appalling. The DNC shared the procedural purpose of my remarks to media well in advance. NBC knew what was going to happen and that it was routine. How does a headline that malicious and misleading happen without that prior knowledge, or with that prior knowledge? So NBC News, how are you going to fix the incredible amount of damage and misinformation that you are now responsible for? Because a 1:15 a.m. tweet to slip under the radar after blowing up a totally false and divisive narrative across networks isn't it." And I will respond for them, because they probably won't. They're going to do nothing, AOC. They're going to do absolutely nothing because they like what they did. They do. Sometimes I'm going to get some of these mixed up between CNN and MSNBC, but you think the network that's okay with talking about, digital brown shirts and Bernie's the Nazi invasion across the Maginot Line is oh yeah, no, they're not going to try to hurt AOC. She's so popular. They're not going to try to hurt her. No, they're trying to take you out because they don't want, they're not going to wait 4 years to try to take you out when you're running for president. They want to poison as many people against you as possible now and tomorrow and next week and every single day.
Yeah, well, journalists in general know the power that they have over the people that they cover. And generally this happens because I, grew up watching and continue to watch sports so closely that I get frustrated by sometimes the way that even when it comes to things like voting people into Hall of Fame and things like that, journalists have a say, or even just in normal coverage of them as they do their job. It's very similar here when it comes to media outlets and knowing how they can portray a political figure any way that they want to. And there's enough people that trust what they said because the media is supposed to be trusted as the source. I mean, especially now, people will think, NBC News, that's more trusted than things like Fox and OAN and all those things, right? So NBC News has something trustworthy to say. They're generally on the right side because they're supporting the guy that I like, all that. And then so this is a layup for them as far as getting a chance to portray her differently.
Yeah, 100%. It's so see-through. And you know what? NBC started it, and they took down the tweet, so they're going to consider themselves to be clean on this. And now people are running with it, with Fox's Kilmeade bizarrely claiming AOC leading far-left Dem takeover with hostage video endorsing Bernie over Biden. The funny thing about that, if anything in politics is really funny anymore, is that they ran that like 6 hours after NBC took down the tweet. Like, there isn't a person in this country who pays attention to politics who doesn't understand every bit of what happened by the time they decided, no, it's a far-left takeover. You're trying to make Bernie the candidate. Wait, but I thought that they already controlled Biden. Don't they already have him in their pocket? Like, why would they then try to get Bernie? They don't need Bernie. Biden's the radical. None of it makes any sense.
None of it ever makes any sense. Yeah, it's like they were set to do that, and they're like, oh, well, things changed. Well, at least NBC admitted what they said. Okay, who cares? We have something else to do. We have an entire agenda that we're set to go forward with. So who cares if reality came to light? That's not what we do here. This is Fox and Friends.
Yeah. Ugh. That's what I have to say. Really fast on the rest of the DNC last night. So I was talking to my friend for his birthday on the phone for like an hour, so I didn't watch most of it, honestly. I saw little bits. I hear some people liked Jill Biden's speech. I thought that the like 17 young state legislators and mayors and stuff like that was like perfectly fine. I don't know, Jayar, did you watch more of the speeches last night?
You know, I have the last 2 days I've watched none of it. I plan on finally start watching it tonight. It was been a toss up in the house, so I'm in here solo now, and I hadn't been for a long time. So I'm resetting my gears, making sure that I'm ready to get into some political speak tonight. So I missed everything. I only watched Michelle Obama's later because of how much everyone was talking about it. So I watched that in full, but that's really the only one I've seen.
Yeah, no, I watched basically all of the first night, but yeah, I was there for AOC, and that was pretty much it. I wasn't going to waste my night on Colin Powell or something like that, which is just, he's a Republican, and how many possible votes could he swing? The current Republican Party, the Democrats have no idea what the Democratic Party should be, and they have no idea whatsoever about what the Republican Party is. They think it's the 80s or something.
Yeah, I have this, I'm sorry, we're going longer on this. I have this, I guess a hybrid approach on this because I know Cenk and them were upset about the number of Republicans that are there, but this is a way to approach it. Now, if you had a viable party that was trying to be a big tent, which Tom Perez kind of said, he said, we're looking to unite, not divide more. This country's already divided enough. Great thing to say is the head of the DNC. Cool. Now, if you actually want to embrace the liberal progressive message, bring in people like AOC, bring in other members of a new Congress, people that are coming and doing real things and are vocal and adamant about it. Mm-hmm. Bring those folks in, bring in your Colin Powells, bring in your John Kasich's, bring in all those guys that you think are going to unify and bring in this moderate Republican vote. But you know what? As they're speaking there, there's going to be this tone of progressivism and democratic values that are being put forward. So when you bring in these Republicans, they're going to be signing on to real change and not going to be just there as a face to bring in more Republicans. So Republicans, if you want to come join, cool, but you're going to have to understand what you're joining is something that's actually going to help the American people differently than the way you used to do it, which was under the guise of just going through with normal political rhetoric, which is what the Republican Party's always done. Donald Trump came in and is doing the same things they like to do, just doesn't know how to say it the right way. Yeah, so these are the Republicans that have gone away from him are the ones like, well, he's a little bit too crazy and radical for me. Some of those policies he does I like, but not all of them. So let me go ahead and start going more to the left. But you're not going to the left. You're just going away from Trump.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we'll see. Some of them maybe okay, like John Kasich, like just to forget, like Colin Powell, like the things he did. How can you forget the cost of the things he did? Anyway.
And honestly, I'm kind of okay with Colin Powell because he did say he's one of the few people who admitted I did this and I did that.
That's
I was
true.
Wrong. I was the driver for that. I was used in this way. I not even like I was used and I'm too dumb to realize it. He goes, I was used and I should have known better. Like he had an actual reality-based explanation for what he did.
True.
So that's the kind of acknowledgement we're looking for. When we talked about George Bush before, I think I was on with Anna and how he's painting pictures now and trying to rehab his image, but he's never pointing out what he did.
Yeah, that's true. I polled my audience on Twitter asking, is George W. Bush going to speak? A lot of people are like, don't rule it out.
Yeah, do not rule it out.
It's not going to happen.
It's a surprise on Friday.
Exactly. Okay, let's check in with the audience a little bit. And by the way, I forgot to mention this early on, but we are live, obviously. And I have noticed that there are several unsullied, untouched, lonely like buttons out there. So everybody give them a little bit of company. And feel free to share the stream. Let people know that we're doing this. You can comment along. You can send us super chats and tweets, and we'll be reading those, including right now with Kai Allen getting first out the gate saying, Happy Wednesday, John and Jayar. If you haven't seen it yet, please check out the Stephen Colbert's Marvel's America Endgame intro for the DNC. It's actually pretty awesome. It is. Obviously, it's glorifying some people that I don't necessarily idolize that much, but it was very well done. It was a good job. You've seen Endgame, JR?
I've tried watching it 5 times, and I think every time I start,
I did too, and I finished 5 times
because I think I was like, am I supposed to watch? What's the super Marvel woman? What's her name?
Oh, Captain Marvel.
Yeah, I'm supposed to watch Captain Marvel first, right?
No. I mean, the one that you should watch before would be Infinity War. That because it's a 2-part kind of thing. Captain Marvel's a separate
Civil
story.
War.
Civil War is earlier.
Okay, I saw Civil War, and then Infinity War. No, I think I may have seen Infinity War. I have not seen Captain Marvel, and I have not seen.
Yeah.
Because Infinity War is where everyone starts disappearing at the end, right? Yeah. Okay, I did see that.
And Endgame is the second part of that story. Okay. Captain Marvel's Iron Man or whatever. It's a separate thing.
Okay, good. Because I was getting helped by that.
There's links, but it's not a sequel or anything.
Well, and the main thing is when I started, generally it's 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and I look up and I was like, this movie's 5 hours. I can't watch it right now.
Oh God, I wish it was 5 hours. I would watch the Lord of the Rings extended cut of that. Anyway, okay, so Sue M says, so nice for the DNC to pretend there was a choice. Yeah, look, I obviously don't necessarily feel the same as everybody. I think that there was a very good chance that Bernie could win that thing. He nearly had it. There was obviously stuff that happened, but I don't think that it was a waste of time or anything like that. But thank you for the support. Arome says, Orome? Maybe Orome. I liken the NBC AOC gaffe to the Kanye Taylor Swift award conflict. They acted like she said, I'm going to let you finish your convention, but Bernard Sanders has the best political platform of all time. That's pretty good. Let's see. Pinkerbell Pixie says, I need to know John and JR's favorite colors. My son is drawing dragons again.
Huh.
JR?
Well, I'm wearing my two favorite colors. I always,
yeah.
It's mostly blue. It's mostly blue, but a close second is red. To the point where my nickname has been Blue in the past by my wife when we first met.
Did not know that. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I would say for me, I like a lot of colors. I like blue. I would say probably black, actually. If you're gonna make a cool colored dragon, make it black. But thank you. And I'd love to see it. Lynn says, John and JR, hello. Hello. How's it going?
Yo.
Seth Ian Rosen says, Q annoys me because I'm a Star Trek fan. Couldn't they pick another letter? I'm totally right there with you. It bothers me too. JR has no idea what we're talking about, probably.
Is that like this thing, or is it this?
Well, that is in Star Trek. No, there's a character named Q.
Or is that one? Is that?
It's the one where lightning comes out of my hands at you.
Is it like West Side Connection and stuff, like from the Ice Cube in them?
It's actually West Side Story is what it comes from. I'm so angry right now. Okay, and with that, let's jump into another story. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. You're the best. Okay. The post office has engaged in any number of different manipulations of what is going to be necessary infrastructure-wise and procedure-wise, preparation-wise, and finances-wise to get us ready to do the amount of mail-in voting that's going to be necessary for us to have a presidential election later on this year. And because of that, we've been doing a lot of coverage of it. There's been a lot of pushback against what Postmaster General DeJoy and the rest of the Trump administration has been doing vis-a-vis the post office. And now there's a little bit of a backpedal, but not really. With DeJoy saying on Tuesday that to avoid even the appearance of any impact on election mail, I am suspending these initiatives until after the election is concluded. Okay, so let's dive into these initiatives. He presents them as budget slashing policies, like limiting overtime, reducing the number of mail trucks, decommissioning sorting machines, all of which had the potential effect of slowing mail and deliveries of everything from packages to prescription drugs. It's been causing tons of problems to people already, let alone what's going to happen when the election comes. Mm-hmm. He says that those have been necessary because the Postal Service is financially unsustainable in the long term. And so all of these changes are designed to make the financial future of the post office brighter. Like changes like I saw from JR's story pitch email this morning, USPS quietly added rule prohibiting workers from signing mail-in ballots as witnesses. To save money. What does that have to do with a dollar or a cent, let alone both? It has nothing to do with anything. It's designed to make it more difficult for you to vote.
Absolutely.
And if that means that a bunch of people don't get their prescription drugs in time, if that means that a bunch of people don't get overtime pay and their job becomes impossible, and people like veterans of the post office that have worked there for decades end up leaving because of what's happened, shouldn't have gotten in the way of a second term for Donald Trump.
It's all that matters. And a little bit more of details on that story about being able to sign off. So in Alaska, and when you have a mail-in ballot, you need to be a witness to sign it to basically get validated. And previous to this, postal workers could be that person. They can sign off you right there. It makes all kinds of sense in the world. You take your stuff in, there's someone there that signs it. They're no longer allowed to do that on the clock. They can still do it off the clock, because you may just run into a random postal worker when they're off the clock and ask them to sign your ballot information so you can have it sent off. No, that's voter suppression. That's making it harder for people to vote. We know that's 2 + 2 is 4. Number two, there's postal union heads across the country in different states. They were asked about this reversal by DeJoy, and what they've discovered is, and this is the first thing I thought, and I'm glad I found it immediately after this, is so what are they going to do about all the problems they've already caused? Number one. Number two, I don't trust them to now not do what they've been saying that they've been doing. Why would they change it? Or what is it that they're going to do to try and basically cover up what they've been doing? So to quote a couple of people, Miriam Bell, the general president of local chapter of Postal Union in North Carolina. 7 sorting machines at that facility were separated out, dismantled, entirely removed in recent weeks. They asked her, are these going to come back? And she goes, I don't know. They haven't told me anything. So the things they've already done are not coming back, or at least the people that would know about them coming back have no clue if they're coming back. This is not just the only time it's happening. It's happening in multiple locations where these sorting machines are dismantled, the inboxes are doing what they're doing with those, and those things are not being reversed. So as we see this continue, you may get more postal union workers talking about the fact that these things continue to happen, but will we pay attention, or will we just say, Louis DeJoy said he's not doing it anymore, so that's that, it's the end of that? No, they're going to continue to do it, and they're not going to reverse what they've already done.
Well, some might be, but you know who's not? The person who threw a wrench into the works at the DNC last night. Just kidding. AOC, here's what she had to say about that announcement by DeJoy yesterday.
Postmaster DeJoy can say whatever he wants about what changes will or will not happen in the future. He has lost the trust of the American people. He has lost our trust to make sure that he will follow through. After they said that they would suspend taking mailboxes out, there were reports and there was confusion about whether that was continuing to happen or not. We need to get him under oath on a committee letting us know what is happening, and we have to undo the damage that he has already done.
And how do you do it? How do you undo the damage that's already been done right now at the end of August when we have an election coming up, right?
Presumably legislation, but yeah, there's not much time.
Yeah, everything is red tape and paperwork. The way that politicians complain about the bureaucracy of DC, they know how it works. When they complain about it, they're the drivers of it. So every time there's planning and things put in place to make sure things go the way they want them to go. You think they don't know how this works? You think they don't know that they can't reverse all this and just undo everything in a matter of 2 months? No way. They know how this works. And so this is supposed to be a nice PR move before he goes in on Friday and gets dismantled about all the things he's been doing in front of the House. So before he goes in and does that, he's trying to arm himself with this declaration that he's reversing all of his previous decisions. Why are you reversing all your previous decisions if they were so awesome the first time?
Yeah,
I hope those questions get asked.
And so you say that sort of sarcastically, but realistically, why would he say he's stalling this if he hadn't already accomplished what he wanted to accomplish? Like, we know why he's doing this. It's not just that DeJoy wants the post office to shut down, like, permanently. He wants it to be hampered to help Donald Trump. Like, he's not worried about consequences. He's not going to stop before he's done. He got what he needed. And maybe it won't be enough to save Trump. Maybe, I don't know, maybe in 3 or 4 years we'll get an intel report about the manipulation of the election by the post office. And maybe some people will care. Even though this time around nobody does with the one we just got.
A couple of Democrats wanted a criminal investigation to go into this with DeJoy because of the things he potentially did that could be crossing into breaking the law. If you're doing that to hinder the Postal Service's delivery, or if you're doing it for personal gain, those things are illegal. So say you get pulled up on charge of that. Say that libs love it and go, oh man, Louis DeJoy's going to jail. Guess who can pardon him? So
Mhm.
there's no more fear of doing anything wrong or breaking the law for helping Donald Trump, because everyone who does that, as I think you want to mention Paul Manafort, you
Mhm.
get pardoned for it, no matter how many laws you break, no matter how much you help international figures disrupt our electoral process. No
Yeah.
matter how much you do that stuff, you can be off the hook. So you've got free range to do so. This law and order president is actually the opposite.
Yeah. And let's just briefly, because I guess now we're combining these two things. So when Trump pardoned Roger Stone, it was pretty obvious from chapter 1 to chapter X of that whole story was pretty obvious to a lot of people. What he had done, and why he didn't provide any information, why he intimidated witnesses while he was being investigated and all that and tried. And then he finally goes down, and so Trump just lets him off because he wasn't a rat and he kept his secrets. But now in the bipartisan intel report, we find out that, yeah, no, indeed, he was contacting WikiLeaks. And when the Access Hollywood video came out, Trump in the campaign told Roger Stone, no, they have to release that stuff that they've got. And so he called them, and WikiLeaks released it within like an hour, 90 minutes, something like that.
Right.
And so he's been doing that from the beginning. He was investigated. He was found to have broken the law. He didn't provide any information, and he was pardoned. And that's why, like, when you look at the whole thing in its entirety, like, sometimes I get frustrated. I'm sure I've said it, but when people are like, if Trump wins re-election, like, democracy will be done. No, it's not like it's an off or an on thing. Like, they've already done so much damage to accountability. Like, they got away with it. And we can like totally disagree about whether that was enough to have swung the election. Totally different story. They did it and got away with it. And it didn't matter what we found out. All of it's totally revealed now. Bipartisan, Republican, and Democratic intel report. Doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Hey, so if you rob a bank and the bank still is in existence, does that mean it's a harmless crime? Hey, you did some damage. You did some damage. There was accountable amounts of money that you took, and you broke the law, number one. And we shouldn't encourage this for future criminals. That's the basis for where we always talk about law and order. We have to penalize these people so that more people won't get inspired to do the same and know that they can get away with it. What is to keep people from thinking they can get away with this in the future if we don't actually do something about it? But no, when it comes to if you steal a pack of gum out of a 7-Eleven, the book is getting thrown at you, because we cannot have little juveniles running in and stealing packs of gum that cost 25 cents. No, we can't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we can't go into all of it about Manafort and everything, but like, Trump, who, again, remember, in the Mueller report, never actually testified. Isn't that crazy how it went on for years and he never had to actually go before him, and we know exactly why he didn't want to. In his written answer says, no, I don't recall ever talking to Roger Stone about WikiLeaks. And the report's like, no, he did many, many times. So it was perjury. But it doesn't matter. He gets to commit perjury. He just gets to.
Straight up.
Yeah, and so that's why, look, do I disagree with the thrust of if he wins re-election, it's going to be really bad? No, I say the same thing, and I agree. It's going to be far worse, but it is not good now. They have already been extremely successful in doing damage that we have been doing reports on every day for a couple of years now, and some of that might be locked in. We'll see. Hopefully, if Biden becomes president, he can reverse some of it. But we also know that in terms of power that's accrued to the executive doesn't tend to be given up by the next one, whether it's the same party or otherwise. So we're going to see. The entire thing it's disgusting. Okay. Couple super chats before we jump into the next topic. Raleigh Jones says, my Republican mom did come over to the light side of the force because of Powell. It's just one mom, but she didn't come over because of me. Colin Powell did it. That's okay. That's interesting. I mean, obviously it's anecdotal, but you can't deny. Thank you, Raleigh. I appreciate that. That's interesting. I assume you mean it for this election. Man, can you imagine, like, assuming that I'm reading what Raleigh said correctly, that Raleigh's mom supported Trump, but then Colin Powell gave a speech and so flipped. That's just, you're saying it happened, so I trust you. It just seems kind of weird.
Well, they trust Colin Powell, a lot of Republicans, These are the Bush Republicans. The reason why he was the guy that was put in place to reel off a bunch of lies to get us to go to war. They trust him. They still trust him. And the fact that he's pushed this a little bit further away from the radicalness of that approach, the fact that he even pushed that the first time, it gives them a bigger platform to stand on. But like, this guy's really, he's there. He's my guy. If he says it, I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Okay, MW says with a very large super chat, thank you, MW, says, love you guys. AOC and Bernie are awesome. Hope you get health care and free education. Hugs from the Netherlands. Thank you, MW. I really do appreciate that. I spent a little bit of time in the Netherlands, and it was lovely. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Carson Rodkey says, Jayar, just watch all 23 MCU films already. What if we did, so you know we've done the movie night, like on Twitch. What if we did a big like fundraiser watching through all 23 in a row? We have, you know, rotating people that come in for them, but 23 in a row.
Like the
I'd do the whole thing.
Yeah, just like the we had the filibuster event back in, man, what was that, 2000?
It's a long
5?
Something like that. It was a long time ago.
Jeez. Oh, yeah.
This would be more justified though. Yeah, no, that would be awesome. Over on Twitch, Obi-Mom Kenobi says, hey, Dragon Squad, just popping in to spread some 2IT love. I'm going to be MIA until Monday because 2020 sucks balls, so be nice to each other, and I love y'all. Thank you, Obi-Mom Kenobi. I don't know exactly what's wrong, but I hope that it gets better soon.
As long as you're still there for JR Wednesday, you can take the rest of the week off.
On Twitch, the Kurd Burglar says, hey, John and JR, so happy to be spending my birthday with you two. I'll give $160 to TYT if you give me a B-Day shout-out. Press on shirt plus your cost. Hopefully, if you don't give me a shout out, I'll give you $159. Balls in your court. Cross his arm. Looking tough. Kurd Burglar, I'll give you a birthday shout out for free. Happy birthday.
This is serious negotiations. The art of the deal.
I don't know, man. Giving an ultimatum, never a position of strength that comes from.
What is it? Kurd Burglar? I'm looking for.
Kurd Burglar was involved in one of the game nights recently.
I was looking for the tweet itself. Either way, happy birthday, as I don't want to say the tag wrong. Kurd or Kirk Burglar? I'm sorry. Kurd Burglar. Happy birthday. Yeah. Have fun. Party it up.
Have some fun. And C-Dub says, lol, John, I think you have a future in a conspiracy cult. No, wait, you're not supposed to say my name. They're going to know. Are you going to listen to the truth when it comes? Are you ready? The storm is here.
This is scary how good you are at this.
Who is R? There's going to be billboards. It just says, who is R? The billboard's going to be white, and the font is going to be eggshell. Who is R?
Not even like, who is R? This is the way to switch it. Go, I am R, but no one knows who R is. They know everything, though.
And by the way, I just want to read this one last super chat. Pete says, if John ever can't host TDR, I'd love to see Yasmin from yesterday and JR do the show together. Well, you know, I'm actually going to be taking a week off in a couple of weeks, and I think there's a request for JR to host one of those episodes. Maybe it could be with Yasmin. It'll be fun. Okay.
John's taking a week off. Yeah, no, I do know Yasmin.
Well, 4 days off, technically, but yeah.
But no, it'll work. I do know Yasmin. She's really good. Yeah. So I'm sorry I missed you yesterday. I'll catch up on what transpired.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk environment. How do we know his real name is John? You don't. Are you just going to trust what they tell you? Huh? The Soros Gates Media Complex? Sorry, I mean, the Soros Gates Media Complex. Anyway, okay, let's talk about the environment. Bad news for the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. The Trump administration earlier this week announced that it's finalized its plan to open it up for oil and gas development, a move that overturns 6 decades of protections for the largest remaining stretch of wilderness in the United States. And if you feel a bit of deja vu, it's because the attempts to block the oil and gas development of Anwar is a thing that has had to be redone over and over and over again, because when it's, you know, like reasonable progressive values, you never actually win. You just hold off. Okay. You might win on a pipeline for a little bit, but they're going to come back. Okay. It's not that way on the right, when what they want is just lots of money and free tax breaks. Once they get that money, they keep that money, you know? But anyway, no, they finalized that plan, and Trump was very excited about it. And yesterday on Fox and Friends, he was asked about it, and he responds, he doesn't seem to have any idea what's going on or what the timeline is, but here he is talking about that.
News story from the Wall Street Journal. They say the Trump administration plans to open up part of the pristine Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to oil drilling. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we're looking looking at different things. We may or may not do it. We did do Anwar, as you know. Anwar is a big deal that Ronald Reagan couldn't get done, and nobody could get done. Everybody wanted it.
This says you're planning
Everybody
to
said
allow
impossible.
it.
Well, no, we are looking at it. When you say planning to allow, we are looking at different things in Alaska. I've been very good to Alaska. Very good to Alaska, and we are looking at things in Alaska. I got them a highway that's going to be built that they've been after for 44 years. We will take a look at that. I am very pro-energy. At the same time,
So they finalized their plan to open it up. He says, well, you know, we're thinking about it. And as a separate thing, we did Anwar. So we're thinking about doing something that we just announced for the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And on the other hand, we did Anwar, which he has no idea that he's talking about the same thing. And he thinks that they're already drilling in Anwar, which is the thing that they just announced this week they're going to open up for. He has no idea what is going on in his own stand for.
If it wasn't for the stupidity that just is unleashed every time he speaks, he has tells also. We already know whenever he's lying, he has these little moments where he points out, like if he's relaying a conversation someone had with him, he'd be like, and then they said, Mr. President, and then they said, sir, all that. Those are all the prequels of lies. So this is another one. Is the way they use this guy and his stupidity and his popularity with a bunch of racists to promote what they want to do, and then they tell him later, oh yeah, Mr. Trump, this is gonna help you. Don't worry, everyone's gonna love you for this. And he'll say, okay, that works for me.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and I may or may not understand it. Yeah, no, he just doesn't like. And the thing is, like, understand two things simultaneously. One, surface level, shallow, we get to laugh at him because he doesn't know what he's talking about. That's fun, right? That's like Schadenfreude or whatever, especially needed in 2020. The other side, though, is that they are going to be opening up Anwar for oil and gas development. And they might potentially sell those leases before Biden gets into office, even if Biden wins. So the joke is here, but the joke is also fundamentally on us, because the largest unspoiled stretch of wilderness left in America is going to become spoiled after a decades-long fight to protect it. So understand both of those things can be true. Now, to be fair, I guess, we've been very critical of Trump on the environment up to and including right now, and that will continue. But for one moment, let's allow him to make the case for why he is, in fact, a great environmental president. In this video, he provides some examples of why that's true.
Look at what we just signed with Cory Gardner and Steve Daines just 2 weeks ago. We signed the biggest, probably the biggest environmental bill. They said the biggest since Teddy Roosevelt, and it could be bigger when you add what I did for Utah. So I'm very much, I hate to say it, in theory, I should go down as a great environmental president, because if you take a look at that, add that onto what we did. Also, if you look at, I opened up the mines, the iron ore mines. We have the best in the world. So I opened that.
Okay. So also, so his example is, I'm allowing more mining. So aren't I a good environmental president? And I have no response to that, I suppose. Aren't I a great animal lover? No, maybe not. Maybe you're not, though.
Wait, you know what? Because that's what he's been getting away with his entire life. He says he's a successful businessman. Reality says he's not. He says that he's smart. The reality is that he's dumb. Everything, but the problem is every time he says these things, they stick. Russia had nothing to do with colluding and my connection to me in 2016. 100% the evidence shows that he did. But it doesn't matter. He said the opposite enough times that dumb people said, oh, yeah, you know what? I think Trump is telling the truth this time, outside of the 27,000 other times that he didn't. But this time he does. And then the next time he will, even though this time he's lying. I mean, I can't blame him. Hey, just suck your entire life. Say you don't suck. And be successful. That's an easy way to make it to the top. You don't have to do anything else. You don't even have to even act like you're working. Just say that you're working. Sit at your desk, and when the boss comes around and says, hey, Donald, why are your feet up on the table like that, chewing gum and blowing bubbles? Because I'm working. Get away. And then he goes, you're right, Donald, promotion. Like, that's how his life has been. So what would make him do anything different now?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, we can't keep, like, yes, what he is doing is stupid. but it also generally has worked. Not everything. He hasn't accomplished all of his goals. Let's acknowledge that. I hate absolutist positions. I always hate absolutist positions.
Yeah.
But anyway, but he has succeeded on many of these things, so we should acknowledge that. Someone in the comments said we should have Standing Rock-like protests for Anwar, which I agree, that would be great. The bad side is it is even more inhospitable in terms of the climate, and more importantly, is 19 million acres. So the fight is over about 10% of that or less, but it is still a very large area to cover. So we'll see. Maybe that will happen, but you never know. Okay, with that, let's jump immediately in the next topic because we still have a few more to get to, and time is quickly running out. So let's talk about this. We've already talked about any number of different polls for this general election pitting Biden against Trump. Now, we have one today, but understand this is a different sort of poll. Okay, generally polls go out there and they talk to people at random to find out who they're likely to support. They provide controls and things like that. The poll we have for today, though, is a comparison of the stance of the same set of people from how they voted for or against Trump back in 2016 to what they plan to do today. This is a panel poll with continuity of people. So let's take a look at some of the change and continuity here. So for Trump voters in 2016, 88% of them still plan to vote for Trump. To give you an idea of how much damage everything he has done over the last few years has done to his base, it's hurt him by a couple points. So that's great. 9% plan to cross over and vote for Biden, and 4% plan to vote for some other candidate. So a very small change for those. Now, for the Clinton voters, 92% plan to vote for Biden, 4% are turning to Trump. Madness. And 4% there are like, I'm going to go for a third-party candidate or some other candidate. Now, perhaps most interestingly is what has happened to people who voted for a third-party candidate back in 2016. Now, really fast, let's jump out of this graphic for 1 second because I want to make something very clear before we break down these numbers. When we talk about these third-party 2016 voters, who do you immediately think that they are? You immediately think that they're Green Party voters, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not really the case. Though some of them are, yes, but I want to make clear that we are not just talking about Green Party voters, because one of the weird things coming out of the election is that people's perception of the vote totals is very different. So Jill Stein got 1.07% of the popular vote. That's about 1.5 million votes. That's a big chunk of votes. Gary Johnson got 3.28% of the vote. 4.5 million votes. So Gary Johnson got more than 3 times as many votes. And the others, these other third-party candidates, is about half as big as Jill Stein. So understand that these are Green Party voters, but they are also like 80% non-Green Party voters that we're talking about. So just understand that. Some of these are libertarians or conservatives who didn't like Trump or whatever. So for them, 41% plan to go for Biden, 30% for Trump, 28%, I think that is, plan to still vote for a third-party candidate. So they're pretty evenly split, but the advantage goes to Biden there. And a similar sort of split basically for people who didn't vote in 16, either because they weren't old enough to vote at that point, or they just chose not to vote or whatever. About the majority go to Biden. So I know there's a lot of information here. We can leave this graphic up for a bit, but Jayar, what do you make of this?
Like you said, I mean, pretty straightforward, self-explanatory, but or expected, because I mean the Trump vote being that high still, that's the base. Those are the only people that he thinks matter in the country, because obviously if he can't appeal to anyone else. He can't appeal to independent voters, he can't appeal to new voters, and he definitely can't appeal to generally people who voted for Hillary last time. So it's just of that graph, the 25% section of it is all that they really care about, for good reason. But I don't know if it's going to do much as far as, changing anyone's approach, because sometimes if you see a certain way people are voting, maybe it'll change the way you vote. So maybe other third-party people or some other new voters or voters who sat out last time, I don't think this is anything that would sway them to change their minds about the way they go. And this specifically for the third-party folks, it looks pretty, the same as what you would expect for them to do. It'll be split pretty evenly.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to see. Miss Callie in the chat says the What's Aleppo guy got more votes than Jill Stein. Yeah, but I mean, look, there's always been a significant number of libertarian, reform party, third party we don't generally talk about that for some reason, but the right always has their third parties that get a significant amount of support. And in this particular case, Trump was obviously a very divisive candidate, so some conservatives didn't want to support Trump, but still want to vote for a right winger, so they went for Gary Johnson. That's why Gary Johnson did pretty well. I just think it's weird that nobody remembers that even happened. But in terms of how much third party support you can expect this time around, if this poll is accurate, then it looks like the majority of the third-party support is probably going to go once again to one of the two main parties. And I would say, just spitballing it, looks like you'll probably end up with about 2%, give or take 0.5% of the popular vote going to a third-party candidate, at least based off of this one poll. Who knows? But that sort of tacks with what I would expect based on the experience of the last few years. This election is going to seem very real to people in a way that for some, about 1 in 20, it seemed very hypothetical in 2016. There's still going to be third-party support. There will always be third-party support. But I do think that this race is going to be a little bit different than others. But to get back to the main takeaways, the idea that Trump has lost only a few percentage points after everything. But then when you really think about it, why would he? He said stupid stuff, but he said stupid stuff during the election. They like the stupid stuff. He said racist stuff. They want more racist stuff. Yeah, he's failed on a few things. He didn't totally kill the ACA, although that in the end might actually have ended up hurting him. They think that they want that, but do they really? That's an open question. He got his tax cuts. He doesn't really have the wall, but they think that he has the wall. So Puerto Rico was devastated. They think good. I want it to be devastated. He brought us to the brink of war with Iran. They want war with Iran. And they don't think that coronavirus is real. So why would this have hurt him? Any of this? And by this, I mean the last few years.
Yep. It's worked for him almost because, he's answering the call of what they were hoping to see happen, which I'm not sure if they could have planned any of this insanity, but no matter what it is, it's the cult version of the support. It's no matter what he does, no matter what he says, no matter how much he's exposed himself as a fraud, they'll continue to be on board just because now what they can't do is undo their decision, because the hardest thing for Americans to do is to say, oh, my bad, I was wrong. Definitely bad.
Well, that's why you pointed out that Colin Powell is one of the few politicians that actually admitted that what he did was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, nobody does that. Nobody. We had a presidential primary where you had Bernie Sanders, who was totally against the war in Iraq, and then you had some candidates who were very supportive of it that never had to even acknowledge that that was a massive mistake. These huge, as consequential a mistake as you could make, you just get to make in politics and media. Nothing ever hurts you.
If you change your mind in politics, you are a flip-flopper, you're a dino, you're a rhino.
Yeah.
And those are apparently things you cannot be, or else you should be run out of the country.
Exactly. Okay, let's read just a couple of super chats before we launch into our last two stories. KS says, criminal charges get results. AZ in New Jersey, yes. Keep the charges coming. Prosecute. Go vegan, you pseudo-environmentalists. 51% damage is on your plate 3 times daily. Go vegan, mofos. Much love to AOC. I don't know the exact criminal charges, but thank you for the super chat. I do appreciate that. Let's see. Sup Man Dude says, do you think AOC will really run? I don't know. The plan seems to be to set up Kamala Harris, and if she's the massively prohibitive favorite, then maybe not. But AOC's not afraid to primary Democrats, so I don't know. I think that she will run. The question will it be in 2024?
We're talking president?
Yes.
No.
Take that back.
Not anytime soon. She's got time, and she needs to be more of I guess a standard that's been there long enough for people to get used to, because there's still how long did
Obama wait?
But Obama, as we know, wasn't as disruptive to the establishment as she would be. And
but he presented himself as that's what he would do.
Yeah, he presented himself. Behind the scenes, he was
maybe.
I'm not gonna flip everything upside down. I'm just gonna shift it a little bit.
Maybe.
And you're like, okay, that works.
Maybe. We'll see. I mean, she'll have been in office for 2 more years than Obama was. I mean, granted, Obama was in state senate. I don't know. We'll see. I hope.
Yeah.
Scott Fleming says, conservation is my passion. This is a bigger deal than people know. My girlfriend and I are trying to rush our tiny home build so we can get up there and help organize and protest. Folks have to get involved. Okay, so here's the thing. Depending on what happens with the pandemic and everything. No, if there's big Anwar protests, I mean, I don't think I can not go. So maybe we could hang out when we get there. AOC will probably be there.
John has braved these types of temperatures before.
I have. I posted on Twitter. Facebook throws up photos to you. It was 3 years ago yesterday that I fed this wild fox a little bit of meat in a formerly Russian ghost town on an Arctic island. It's weird how
You have a picture of this?
Yeah, I took pictures. We took footage. It's in the documentary.
Oh my god.
I don't know if there's footage of me feeding it, but I took photos anyway. Okay, Rob Shively says, for one day only, change the show to the R Report and broadcast from a pickup truck on a back road wearing a cap and Oakleys. Also add more beard. I should do that. I think that, so Stephen Colbert has a character, Tuck Buckford, which is basically Alex Jones. It's that sort of conspiratorial thing. But that's one sort of conspiratorial thing. He needs a Q character, basically, because that's the new wave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rally says, you're right. Mom's voting Biden, not just because of Powell. I showed her many clips of Trump's very large brain. So 20% me, 75% Trump being a donkey, 5% Powell, but he was the final straw. Okay, that's funny. Yeah, it's hard to fight. Enough video evidence of him having donkey brains is hard to fight back against. On Twitch, Pinkerbell Pixie says, John, just cosplay Bane and your R transformation would be complete. Tom Will says, John, buddy, how's the caffeine withdrawal going, my man? Well, I might be back up to 2 cups a day. We'll see.
Is this some promise you made that you knew you couldn't keep?
No, I never said I was done with caffeine, and I've been back on 1 cup for 2 weeks now. It's just, I have to do election coverage and stuff at night, and I got to be on.
Hey, John, you don't have to explain it to me. You just have to explain it to yourself.
I can't. Okay, with that, let's jump back into the stories. This is a weird one, but let's just do it. So on Monday's show, Francesca and I responded to the news, which seems like it would be bigger news, but for some reason wasn't, that the president's brother, Robert Trump, had passed away on August 15th. That's obviously sad for the family. Of course, any death is a tragedy. Any death, especially during this pandemic where so many people have been passing away, raised questions about the manner of death, questions that have not been answered. And that's fine. That's up to them. They don't have to ever reveal anything about it if they don't want to. But really the only new information we've gotten since that show on Monday is when Trump appeared on Fox and talked a little bit about his brother, sort of. The topic was sort of his brother, but he really talked about himself. Let's take a look.
Was loyal people. There was no jealousy. A lot of times in families, I hate to say it, but there's jealousy, and especially among children and among children that are competitive children. Because he was very competitive. There was not an ounce of jealousy. He'd go around talking about how great this is for the country, and it's so incredible. And he was my biggest fan. People would tell me all the time, I spoke to your brother, and your brother was so thrilled and so thrilled at what was happening. And what was happening for the country was he was so angry with China because of what happened where the plague came in and they shouldn't have allowed it to happen. They could have stopped it. He was so upset by that. He couldn't, more than people would be upset. A lot of people have already forgotten, and you can't forget. But he was a fantastic guy.
Well, we're very sorry for your loss. And
well, thanks.
Yeah, or as Trump would say, his brother's loss, that he's not with Trump anymore. Look, so first of all, let's just say it. You get to grieve any way you want, and grief can look weird to an outsider. I've had many losses, including my father years and years ago. You get to grieve the way you want, but we are humans, and we will react. And my reaction is, aren't you supposed to say that, you're his biggest fan or something about him? He said he was a great guy at the end, but all of that was, he loves the good things I do, and he hates the bad things that happen to me and are said about me. That's not a eulogy, really, or at least not a eulogy about Robert Trump.
His value in people is based on their love for him, whether it's real or fake. It doesn't matter. So he starts first off, siblings. There's always sibling rivalries, and there's jealousy. Man, how do we get on jealousy immediately when we're talking about, like you said, people grieve whatever way they want, but it's just an indication of the way he sees other people, their value, their worth. A terrific guy is someone who loves him no matter what. And by the way, another tell, since we're mentioning Trump's tells, is whenever he's talking about himself as president, it's hard for him to say everyone's happy for me, because that sounds bad, because obviously you're the president of this country. It's not supposed to be about you, even though he slips that all the time. But his tell is about what has been happening with the presidency. I mean, for the country. Whenever he says it's for the country, it's 100% about him.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the country. Because then the next question should be, so what is it about what you've done for the country that he loves so much? Probably couldn't tell you that, because he ain't done anything for the country. And definitely his brother didn't call up and say, hey, so Donald, I love this policy on making up caravans of Latinos coming up from Central and South America and in Mexico. I love all these lies you're telling about going in, about your past and your background and your worth, your net worth, and you're covering up for your lies on your tax returns. All these things that you've lied about throughout, I can't even get through all of them. I love what you've lied about with COVID. Oh man, hydroxychloroquine, man, Donald, you're doing great. Those calls didn't happen. Those calls just didn't happen. Yeah. And maybe they did. Maybe he wants some kind of support, but it's all based in how much it's support for him. Man, we don't even know what type of person your brother was. Aren't you supposed to say he was a kind, loving person? Again, I'm sorry, maybe you're not supposed to say that, because now you got me feeling bad about critiquing this guy's way of talking.
No, and I do too. I'm sure many people are seeing this and thinking, like, how dare you even comment on the way someone responds? And I get that. But it's weird, and he has power, and so it's not like this is just one part of his life that he makes all about himself. No, that has an effect on the damage that's being done in the country is being driven by those personality flaws. And really fast, if I've already been an a-hole, I'm just going to make it a little bit worse. So that was all the video we could find of it. But he was, at the beginning of the video, he was continuing. So we found the transcript of what he was saying beforehand, and it doesn't make it better. He says, well, we did interact, and he was always there, and he was, he wasn't a jealous person. He was a very smart person, but he wasn't, he would be there, and he'd be behind me. And if I had the #1 show, if I had big success, and no matter what I did, whether it was real estate deals or anything else, he was right there. In many cases, helped me very much with whatever I did. And then when I became president, he was, I think, one of the most loyal people. And that's where it transitions into the video. He said he helped him. That's good. And he called him loyal. But that's not really about him. That's about his relationship with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what? Hey, let me help you out with feeling bad about criticizing his response. When someone dies, I don't have much of a connection to it. I just don't talk about it. Now, when the president's brother dies and then he goes on a TV tour, or I fell down a rabbit hole on Twitter the other day when he passed away about right-wing commentators that were talking. All they could talk about was how badly people are talking trash about Donald Trump and his brother, right? Why don't you just not talk about it? Like the opposite of that is bringing it up so you can have some kind of a highlight reel of you supporting Trump. Why does Fox and Friends have Donald Trump on to talk about his just passed brother? Why? Why do we have to talk about it then? Why is he talking about it on TV if this is such a close, personal, deeply hurtful issue? Stay home and mourn then. Because if my brother dies and I'm some kind of figure, I'm not going to go on TV to talk about my brother and how awesome he was because he liked me. Why not stay home and just and reflect on what just happened to my family? I just don't get this promotional tour on your brother's death. So if you don't want people talking about your brother dying, stop talking about your brother dying publicly then.
Yeah, I disagree somewhat. I think if you want to talk about it, you can talk about it. But then if you do make it public,
the reason for it is not to talk about it because you're in pain and people want to know what you feel. It's so you can promote yourself again.
Yeah. And I will just say, this is just me putting out there. I have no power over this, and it already happened. But we have no idea, and we'll probably never know what Robert Trump died of. I just really hope that it wasn't coronavirus. Like, and again, we'll never know. But if it was, like, they'll never reveal it. But Trump will know, and Robert Trump will have known that, like, Trump said he was smart, so he knows that Trump botched this response. Like, I really hope that one less person could have died as a result of Trump's, negligence and incompetence and cruelty on this. But anyway, yeah, tragedy. Feel bad for anyone who loses anyone. I've lost someone recently, but yeah.
Yeah, no, you need a media tour on mourning whenever you need people to see that, to believe that you're a human, because previous to that, no one believes that because they know how heartless he is. Sorry.
Okay.
I tried not to, John.
I know. This stuff we take it very seriously, and it really gets you because it is consequential. Okay, let's see. Izzy Lippold was the individual sent in the super chat saying we need standing rock like protests at Anwar. I agree. It's gonna be tough, but I agree. Temple of the God says Trump's followers are like the people living in the town led by the governor in The Walking Dead. They'll ignore any craziness from their leader while he's protecting them from the monsters. Dems. Yeah. Madeline says, I won't be voting for Biden or Trump. I can't vote for people who don't match my values. Someone not being Trump isn't enough for me. Yeah, and there will be some people like that. I don't tell people who to vote for. I just explain why I'm voting the way that I am. Okay. Ty Strong says, pretend I said something witty. Wait, was that not the form you wanted it to come in, Ty? Anyway, thank you. Okay, Mr. Aini Weenie says, I worked with Chevron in Australia on the Barrow Island project, an A-class reserve. We all knew it was just to open up Alaska. Wow. Matthias says, many corrupt people are using Trump to push through their agendas. He is their excuse, and they will lay it all at his feet if he loses. I don't know. I think if he loses, first of all, he might still be president. But even if he loses, he's not going to immediately go away. I think Republicans are still going to very much defer to him for years. Oh. Even if he passes away in the next couple of years, I think they're going to still pretend that they are his successor. People do that even with non-crazy presidents like Clinton and Obama.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's very quickly jump into one last story. This is a fun one. I need a new word for that because it's not like it's actually fun, but it's interesting in a way that most of our stories are not. So that's what we've got for you now. Last week, Ben Shapiro revealed so much about himself while discussing Cardi B's song WAP, and in the end looked insane and ridiculous. And Tucker Carlson, while he's not a good guy generally, doesn't want Ben Shapiro to suffer alone. And so after a week of that, he's now jumping in with his take on Cardi B's song. And while you watch this video, we've got two videos for you. I want you to bear in mind that Tucker Carlson is presented as a different sort of Republican pundit. He's a populist, okay? It's not all about identity politics. He's not the same as like old Bill O'Reilly or anything like that. And then I want you to watch this video, and I want you to think about what he's actually doing there. So here he is talking about WAP.
A lot of pop culture on the show, not because it doesn't matter. It definitely matters, but we try and do with what you know. We don't know a ton about that. We're going to make an exception tonight for a new song by a singer called Cardi B. The song is called WAP, WAP. We can't tell you what that stands for. We literally can't tell you what the name of the song is, much less its lyrics. And we're not being prudish here. This is not James Brown being sexually suggestive on stage. Go online right now and look up the lyrics to this song. And then ask yourself, if you were Joe Biden, would you suck up to the person who sang it? And ask yourself, above all, and ask it more than once, what is this doing to our kids? The people pushing it clearly are trying to...
Okay, so there's a lot there. So he acknowledges that Cardi B met with Joe Biden, and he hates it, even though he loves when like Ted Nugent goes to the White House. Anyway, absolutely. And so what is that? What is this whole thing? Well, it's a couple things that advances Tucker Carlson's agendas. One is anything produced by non-white people is terrible, and so you get to feel disdain for it. Like, come to my show so that you can be really angry and offended at non-white people. So he's providing that. It's also they're coming for you because rich people, remember he's a populist, so he has to criticize the rich, but not in any way that actually damages their income. So he gets to say, these music labels are rich. So see, I'm a populist. I want to give them billions in tax breaks, but I'm a populist because I'm criticizing them here. And they're coming for your daughters or your granddaughters because he gets that his audience is 80. They're coming for your granddaughters because they're always coming for you with Tucker Carlson. And again, not in any way different than any conservative radio pundit ever. He says, we're not being prudish. No, you're being prudish. That's 100% what you're being. There was more to the video too, where he's just like, this is filth. It's filth. No, it's a song. It's a song about sex. There's been ones before. You can Google it. I've heard them.
Hey, John. Hey, I know some songs that weren't done by young black women that had explicit lyrics about sex. In fact, they were done by men who had explicit lyrics about sex with young women. And guess who celebrates that? Everybody. So whenever that happens throughout history, I mean, this new craze of these crazy young black filthy mouthed women, because it's a way to, of course, characterize black folks, specifically in this case, black women, as filthy, lesser than human beings. We know the game. Tucker Carlson does this. Aerosmith, Walk This Way. I think everyone has heard this damn song. Steven Tyler. Can I read a lyric for you? I met a cheerleader. She was a real young bleeder. What does that mean? All the time I've been doing this. The best thing loving with her sister and her cousin. Sounds like a little bit of I was trying to get through this without falling apart. But no, Aerosmith has that with now we're talking about some incest. We're talking about this young bleeder. Oh, she's awesome. My Sharona from the 80s, the Knack. Never gonna stop, give it up. Such a dirty mind. Always get it up for the touch of the younger kind. Oh, My Sharona. That's like that's an 80s like iconic song.
And our theme song.
That's true. And just now, Tucker Carlson's wondering what it does to your daughters. Neil Diamond, girl, you're going to be a woman soon. We've heard that featured in movies. Please come take my hand, girl. You'll be a woman soon. Soon you'll need a man. Girl, she's going to need a man. ZZ Top. Oh man, I don't think Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are ZZ Top level. Pearl Necklace. What does that mean? The name of the song is Pearl Necklace. She was getting bombed and I was getting blown away. And that's not jewelry she's talking about. It really doesn't cost that much. Okay, this filth. Your granddaughters are listening to this filth. No, actually your grandfather is listening to that filth because that's when that stuff was out. So as long as you're an old, crusty white dude who's making filthy songs about screwing young girls and seeing how much they bleed, it's okay with Tucker Carlson. And as you already mentioned, I wasn't going to get to your boy that Huckabee always likes to have on his show. He's disgusting, but it's countless. It can go on and on. So when you go and research the lyrics to WAP, research the lyrics to all these other songs and see if it's still outraged by it.
So I want to play you got me going now with those lyrics. So I gave an example when we talked about Ben Shapiro last week, but let me paint you a picture of an alternate world. Years and years ago, Ben Shapiro somehow had a show, things he could have been all worked up about. He could have found out about Warrant's song Cherry Pie, and he could have gone on his show and he could have read the lyrics aghast at what he's seeing. She's my cherry pie, cool drink of water, such a sweet surprise. Tastes so good, makes a grown man cry. Sweet cherry pie, yeah. Swinging in the living room, swinging in the kitchen. Most folks don't because they're too busy bitching. Swinging in there because she wanted me to feed her. So I mixed up the batter and she licked the beater. I think we all know what Warrant is talking about there when they mention licking the beater. Can I say beater? I don't know if I can say beater, but I think we know what they mean. That's a nasty, filthy, disgusting song by Warrant.
Disgusting. But if a young black female rapper says things like that, it's disgusting. They look what they're doing to your kids. What they don't like is that their kids like these figures. And you know what their kids are seeing when they like these figures? Humans. Previous to that, we were allowed to dehumanize our, especially black entertainers. They're just up there and they're these like minstrel shows for us to be entertained by, but they're still not humans. Younger generations are seeing them and like them and actually aspire to be somewhat like them in some ways. We can't have that. We cannot have black role models for white people because, young white people might stop believing the BS we've been preaching to them this whole time.
Exactly. No, it's just, and I'm not even gonna play the Tucker video. We know why he does this. We know why he does this. He doesn't actually care about the song, and he doesn't think that it's bad that musicians are run by people that are rich. He doesn't have any problem whatsoever with the rich. It's about demonizing non-white cultures. It's about convincing you that something's coming. This is just moral panic. This is all this is.
Yeah.
This is rap music in the 90s. This is Dungeons and Dragons. This is whatever it is. If it's popular, they're going to present it to their conservative older audience as a threat to the young. They're coming for you. No, they're not coming for you. They're just coming, and it's not a bad thing. Okay, we can talk about it from time to time.
So, John, just I want to make sure this doesn't go unsaid, but let's keep it real. Your Ben Shapiro impersonation has far surpassed Anna's. Let's keep it real. Let's just keep it real. Hey, everyone who doesn't believe it, rewind back, play that clip of John reading in Ben's voice, close your eyes, and picture Ben Shapiro, and you cannot tell the difference.
You know, the funny thing is, when I decided I wanted to do it, I don't know if I've ever really tried to do his impression before, and I didn't know how it would go. When I launched into it, I was like, I don't think this is really convincing, but I decided, well, I already started. I'm not going to cut out of it.
No, it's good.
Anyway, yeah, no, it's just a song. If you like it, listen to it. If you don't like it, don't listen to it, as you already have as a policy for virtually every song that's ever been released. It's okay to just not listen to something. It's really okay.
Yep.
Anyway, Jayar, thank you so much for joining me. That was fun. Great to have you on.
No idea how happy I am that we got to that story.
Nice. I'm glad. That's what I want to provide to you on Wednesdays in exchange for your service to us. Okay, thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.
And everybody at home, let's read a few more super chats. Let's see what's going on. Nicole says, I literally thought it was Ben. I had to look at my screen. That's funny. Anyway, let's see. Torn Tokoroa says, sorry about that. I keep getting sent a meme where a donkey is at a DNC podium and it's saying, friendly reminder, this is a hostage situation. You don't get to make demands. I get it. This election sucks. Yeah, and the entire DNC could have really been something if this year had gone the way it was supposed to. Kyle says, maybe with this post office fiasco, we could get a law that all political appointees cabinet can't own individual stocks. Write your rep. Look, I'm personally fine with everyone in elected office not having access to individual stocks. How could we give them that power? We've been making that case all year. I get why it's difficult to get them to change because they want to make money with their position. I would say, if you actually want to serve. If you want to make money, then go do that instead. Carol, thank you for your super chat. Let's see. Damien says he's talking about his brother because of his niece's book, trying to debunk the fact that Trump went to the movies while his older brother was dying. That's an interesting point. I can't say for sure, but possibly. By the way, dirty lyrics are flooding the chat right now with Grayson saying I could eat a peach for hours. Yeah, that's pretty dirty. There's a lot of stuff out here that they were totally okay with. Brian says John does way too good a Ben Shapiro impression. Should I be worried? I don't think it's going to happen very often, so no, I would not be worried. But thank you. That's nice. Chakuseki says Cucker Carlson is jealous that while some are drowning in WAF like the splash zone in SeaWorld, he's lost in the Kalahari Desert with Ben Shapiro. Okay. See, we've reached the point where I'm extremely uncomfortable now. But anyway, but that demonstrates my point. You can just not talk about it. If Tucker Carlson, if it makes you uncomfortable to be thinking about these things, just don't talk about it. Like I could have cut this off like a bit ago. Scott Fleming says, teach me how to Arctic. You can play with my dogs. I would love to take more dogs to the Arctic. I had a great time getting to know some sled dogs. It was awesome. Okay, over on Twitch, Galfar says, damn, almost forgot to ask Jayar if he likes Power Man for his TYT Marvel persona. If it's a yes, then John becomes the Iron Fist to Jayar's Power Man. I think that Jayar said, he said Black Panther a couple weeks ago. I don't remember for sure. I'll bring it up next time. Osborne says total runtime of all MCU movies combined is 49 hours, 56 seconds. Good luck on staying up this long, John. Yeah, that might be tough. Okay, we might have to do more of a rotation, but I think that would be fun. Wild Mustang says the only thing Trump cares about is where is his Diet Coke and KFC. I care about that too. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining us and being so supportive. Hope that you had a little bit of fun today. It's a dark year. We got to have a few laughs, even if we end up feeling uncomfortable. And so with that, we've got a lot more planned for this week, including tonight. Cenk Uygur and Michael Shore are going to be doing DNC commentary, so you're definitely not going to want to miss that. And we'll be back with more TDR tomorrow to provide some commentary on it right there. Thank you again for joining us. Stay safe out there.